we're gonna talk about Lamar Jackson because he's somebody that every offseason there's a new story about him, whether or not he should get paid. Somebody saying about him anonymously, and this time an anonymous quote by NFL defense coordinator said, if he has to pass to win the game, they ain't winning the game. The anonymous coach said. He's so unique as an athlete, and he's a really good football player, but I don't give a shit if he wins the league MVP 12 times. I don't think he'll ever be one as a quarterback. He'll be one as a football player, but not as a quarterback.
That's hilarious. That's a
now, Drew, earlier in this show, we're talking about Stafford. You mentioned Lamar, and you threw in a little thing about him passing.
Yeah.
Is he going to win you a game with passing like the way Stafford did in those 3-game winning drives and stuff? So I'm curious to hear what you have to say about a defense coordinator saying that if he has to pass to win the game, it's not going to happen.
I do hate that I basically reiterated what this guy said because the way that he's coming across is extremely disrespectful, extremely rude. I can still feel the way I feel about Lamar Jackson by still acknowledging the fact that he's still a fringe top 10 quarterback. He's still a league MVP, and that's still something that you can't just look over. You can't just gloss over it. He's still the best mobile quarterback we will ever see. I'm pretty confident in saying that. But when it comes to passing the football, he showed strides this season, but even still, his interception rate was way too high for my liking. And it just comes to moments where you need Lamar to be the best passer in that game, in that moment. And sometimes he comes up a little bit short. We saw it last season where with his arm, he won some games against the Colts. That was an amazing performance by Lamar Jackson. He showed really good strides last season with his arm, no doubt. But we need to see it on a consistent basis. Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson are on two different planes, but I say
same weaknesses.
Exactly what I mean. You look at Jalen Hurts, you understand that he is a great mobile quarterback, but he limits you because of his arm. You have similar feeling with Lamar that he's an even better rusher than Jalen Hurts, but his arm, you still have to see it on a consistent basis to be firmly in. I do believe that we will see Lamar Jackson get to that point where he is a consistent passer. He's a passer that you can trust. We just need to see it first, though. I do believe he has the capabilities to do so. I don't love the disrespect.
Yeah.
I think that it's just up to Lamar to shut him up, and I think that he will.
Yeah, that comment was real haterish. But I want to put up this fake graphic, this little demographic.
Right here, John. Figure it out. Right there.
Right here. So we're going to go Kyler Murray right here. Then in the middle, we're going to go Josh Allen. Then we're going to go Lamar Jackson. Do I think he's limited? Yes, of course. You know, he has his problems accuracy-wise. He has his problem throwing the ball downfield. You look at all these three quarterbacks. The reason why people are higher on Kyler Murray and Josh Allen because of their ability to not only dominate a game with their running ability, but with their accuracy and throwing the ball. Josh Allen, he's just a different type of monster.
Facts.
Kyler Murray, he's getting there. You know, he's one of those guys that can throw the ball with the best of them. He has a deep arm. He has the accuracy. Lamar Jackson, I think the system also kind of puts people in a, you know, they were a big red zone team, and they're a team that is heavily on the run game. So I think the system kind of, I don't want to say limits him, but it puts it where he can't show his ability passing the ball all too well.
Yeah.
But he does has his troubles. I think the limits are going to be broken because he has that type of potential. I don't think he'll just be a football player. I think he can be a great thrower because he has the ability to throw the ball very far. He has shown strides in being an accurate quarterback. It is going to take some time, but I don't know if we're going to see it this year because his wide receiver room isn't the best in the world. You know, he lost Marquise Brown, but Marquise Brown wasn't the best. You know what I'm saying? So he
showed out last year.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, but he still got Mark Andrews, so that's sight to see.
And Rashad Bateman, people are very high on, which is understandable.
High, but I got to see to believe type.
He was
of dude.
pretty good last season.
Yeah, he was all right, but I think the limits are there. But I think he'll be able to break those. But if you stack him up with the dual threats in the league, even if we go further, Deshaun Watson can throw the ball, can run the ball. You know, it's like Russell Wilson can throw the ball, can run the ball.
If you're throwing Russ, you got to throw Mahomes.
Mahomes can throw the ball at a ridiculous rate, can run the ball. He's one of the, like, you throw all the dual threats, they all have the ability to make those plays with their feet and their arm. Lamar, not all too well, but I think he'll be able to eventually get there. He has the potential.
You know,
Joel's going to be proud of you. I believe that.
This is funny that you guys are mentioning this because I hate to call you guys out on it, but I'm going to do it.
Talk to us.
You guys are contributing to a lot of the false narratives that surround Lamar Jackson.
I gave him his praise this past season.
I think I did too.
In terms of just him not being this passer, the narrative that Lamar Jackson isn't this great to elite level passer is wrong. It's not right.
Norm Lamar.
It's not backed by any statistical evidence.
Come on.
Lamar Jackson this past season was number 1 in yards per attempt. Outside the numbers, by the way, they're difficult throws.
No doubt. He was really good.
Number 1 in yards per attempt, success rate, and EPA per attempt. Outside the numbers. He averaged 9.4 yards per attempt, 5th highest. 9.4 air yards per attempt, 5th highest, while being blitzed on 32% of his attempts, which was the 5th highest in the league. So he's getting blitzed, the 5th highest, and he's completing passes. He's completing far passes at a ridiculous ridiculously high rate. He's the first player in NFL history to throw for 3,000 yards and rush for 1,000. You can argue he had one of the best seasons in NFL history in his MVP
regular season.
His efficiency was off the charts. Then you look at the Ravens when Lamar went down with an ankle injury. They went 0-5. They won 0 games. Lamar had them at 8-3, first in the AFC North, while being the most injured team in the NFL.
He was great.
Lamar Jackson has 84 total touchdowns in his 37 starts. That ranks number 3 all time, behind only Mahomes and Dan Marino, and his 67 passing touchdowns is 11th most, tied with Aaron Rodgers. That's ahead of Peyton Manning. That's ahead of Tom Brady. That's ahead of Russell Wilson. That's ahead of Phillip Rivers, and mostly every other great quarterback that you can name in NFL history. The biggest knock they throw on Lamar Jackson is that when he's trailing, he can't win you a game. With 5 minutes left and trailing in the 4th, Lamar's thrown for 574 yards, completed 64% of his passes.
How many games?
Has 5 touchdowns to 1 pick and a 112 passer rating. There's all the games that he was trailing this past season, in 2021 season.
Okay.
And with that being said, the Ravens have done very little to surround Lamar Jackson when we talk about offensive weapons and even offensive linemen, because Lamar came into a great offensive line, but since Marshall Yanda's retired, they really haven't done much to try and rebuild that offensive line. Their spending at offensive line since Lamar's been in the league has been number 28 in the NFL, number 27 in the NFL, number 31 in the NFL, and number 23 in the NFL. Their spending at wide receiver has been number 25 in the NFL, number 27 in the NFL, number 28 in the NFL, and number 22 in the NFL.
That's bad.
Before Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh was a 500 coach about to get fired.
Right.
Lamar Jackson takes the mantle, and since then, in his starts, they've been 37-12. Lamar is capable, but the Ravens are holding him back because they are not surrounding him with the right supporting player, the right supporting cast for him to get over the hump. Now, Lamar Jackson, people talk about him as a passer all you want. You can talk about it all you want, but he is a great to elite level passer. And when you couple in his rushing ability, when we talk about the young quarterbacks in the NFL, him and Kyler Murray is not a debate. It's Lamar Jackson. Him and Deshaun Watson, I'm taking Lamar Jackson over Deshaun Watson. What? Lamar Jackson at his very best is better than all those guys. It's really not a debate. Lamar Jackson at his very best is a top 8 quarterback, a minimum in the NFL.
Just level with me. Just level with me real quick.
Just because you speak confidently into a microphone does not mean that it's right.
Can I ask you a question, Joel? Maybe, I'm the new guy on the block, so maybe you can.
I'd love to hear this.
You can level with me with these numbers that I just found. I'm just going to read it so you don't think I made them up, okay? Lamar Jackson this is 2021. Lamar Jackson completed just 33.3% of his 20-plus yard throws at 11.5 yards per attempt. He was dead last in accuracy rate, as only 22.6% of his deep balls were thrown accurately. PFF used 8 different deep passing metrics to rank each quarterback, which included passing yards, yards per attempt, turnover-worthy play rate, and accuracy percentage. And by those metrics, Jackson placed near the bottom of the league. He was ranked between Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson at 28th.
What's your question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the question was
pretty self-explanatory.
pretty obvious,
Correct.
But I guess I have to ask it. We said he made strides in his accuracy. You said the notion was this is a myth, but the numbers say it's kind of not really a myth. He just wasn't good. Now, this season wasn't the best season for the Baltimore Ravens. I agree with you. They were hampered with injuries. The team wasn't fit right. I understand that.
And this was in 11 starts he had
This
these
was
statistics.
12 starts,
Yeah,
12 games.
12.
Where he
Apologize.
threw 16 touchdowns and he had 13 interceptions, 2,882 yards. So the numbers scream he hasn't been accurate. So my question is it more on his ability, or is it, like you said, the team just not putting guys next to him?
It's the players, it's the scheme. Greg Roman runs a run-heavy scheme,
Right.
and his scheme is very predictable. He made a few kinks to it he made a few kinks to it, but for the most part, it's a run-heavy scheme. It took advantage of Lamar's strengths. There's no doubt about it. When you talk about those numbers, those inaccuracies, we have to also mention that there was a game this past season against the Detroit Lions where he threw 3 beautiful deep balls to Marquise Brown, and he dropped all of them.
Right.
So his
context
receivers
isn't there.
are not reliable, which also hinders his accuracy.
All right.
And really, that's really the biggest thing.
Okay.
He's not Lamar Jackson amongst all these great quarterbacks is the only one that's not playing with a superstar wide receiver.
That's fair.
That's a fact. Kyler Murray's playing with D-Hop. Deshaun is played with D-Hop, and even Brandon Cooks clears anybody Lamar's played
But
with.
Deshaun did have his best season with Brandon Cooks.
You're right, but Brandon Cooks is also a better receiver
He's
than
really
Hollywood
good.
Brown.
Not saying much though.
I agree, though.
Cooks is good. But it's not
You look
good.
at just
No, Cooks he's really
all
good.
these great quarterbacks. They have either one elite receiver or they have 2 really great ones. Lamar Jackson has not had that. He's had Mark Andrews, who's a great tight end, and I love Mark Andrews, but you don't have an outside threat.
Fair.
And in this scheme, it doesn't take advantage of Lamar's capabilities as a passer.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you believe that Hollywood Brown's going to be better statistically with Kyler Murray?
He might be, but I think that's only because
I do believe that.
D-Hop is out
he's
6
getting.
weeks.
I think he might be. Actually, not might. He will be.
He will. I agree.
There are 2 main reasons for that. Number one reason is that the Cardinals are a pass-heavy team.
And Kyler's a better deep ball thrower.
Not even that. They're just a spread air raid team.
Agreed, though.
They're spread
I agree.
out, and it versus in Baltimore, they're asking Hollywood to block a lot. They're in a lot of heavy tight end. They're in a lot of heavy tight end sets.
I agree.
In Arizona, it's going to be Kyler Murray shotgun, empty backfield, 4 receivers on the outside.
Do they have the personnel to do that?
Yeah, they do. I mean, you look at AJ Green. You look at. I mean, even when
Rondell Moore, he's going to get a lot of opportunity.
Even when D-Hop was out, they ran the same offense. They just switched out.
I just say because
Hop with Blake Wesley.
I just think that Connor, and now you have Darryl Williams
Antonio
come
Wesley,
in.
one of those.
I know what you're saying. I just think Connor and Darryl Williams being in that backfield, like, sure, it's Cliff Kingsbury. He'll probably come up with something 4 wide, no doubt. But I just think that they're going to rely on a lot on
They
Connor.
got Moore, Brown in the middle, Green, Hopkins when he get back on the outside.
No, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
They re-signed Hurts.
They
That's
run a
tough.
spread system, so that's why. And
I
then,
understand.
And then number 2, it's just opportunity. D-Hop is out for the first 6 games.
But I
of the
say this
season.
because Hollywood was the number 1 and
Andrews is the number 1 target.
But
Fair.
it didn't show that when you look at Lamar when he was out and Mark Andrews' numbers when Lamar was out versus Lamar was in. Mark Andrews was better with Tyler Huntley. His numbers were better with Tyler
Different
Huntley.
quarterbacks, though.
No doubt, but my point being is he did not maximize Mark Andrews the way that
Did he not,
opposite.
or did the system not maximize Mark Andrews?
I don't know if that's a really tough question for me to answer.
Honestly, I don't care what the numbers say. Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews has been one of the best quarterback to tight end duos in the NFL in these recent years. So I don't care what those numbers say. Maybe he was better than Huntley. Maybe he wasn't.
He was.
Lamar,
I'm telling you.
Mark Andrews is the number 1 receiving option on the Baltimore Ravens
agree.
offense.
I respect it.
That is without a doubt.
I agree. But we saw Hollywood be better than Mark Andrews when Lamar was in. Statistically.
Hollywood's going to have a better statistical season. But regardless, it's 1 because of the targets, and I think it's 2 because of the offensive scheme that fits him. There's a reason Hollywood has been wanting to get traded out of Baltimore for 3 years now.
I only say that because he was getting targets in Baltimore.
Yes, but he's not going to get it to the amount that he's going to get in Arizona. Hollywood has wanted to leave Baltimore for the past 3 seasons. He's made it vocal when he
Definitely.
left. When he left to Arizona, he literally said that I've
He
been
wanted
wanting to
this,
get
yeah.
out of there for a while, but this was finally the final straw, and they traded me, and it was because he was about to, get a bag, and they didn't want to pay him. So that's why they made that move. But that's why things would be statistically better. But Lamar Jackson is a great quarterback.
No, for sure. Absolutely.
I think he's a great passer. And even in his MVP season, when they asked him what he wanted to be, he said, "I want to be Drew Brees level as a passer." And I feel like the system is hindering him.
And another reason why he faces so much scrutiny is because of his playoff statistics. You just give it a quick search. Lamar Jackson, passer rating of 68.3 with 900 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 INTs in 4 games in his playoff career.
Titans game.
It's a huge reason why people look at Lamar in that manner. So, again, it's up to Lamar to prove it in the big stage. We know you can do it in the regular season. Like you alluded to earlier, he had one of the best regular seasons we might ever see in our lifetimes. But what it ultimately comes down to is what can you do for me come playoff time?